Mike Ehrmantraut once let a man beat him unconscious in a parking lot, in broad daylight, in front of witnesses, on purpose. And he walked away from that with $50,000 and a solved problem. That's the thing about Mike. By the time you realize what's happening, you're already 3 steps into his plan and there's no way out. Today, we're going through exactly how he pulled that off, and every other time he was the coldest, most dangerous man in the room. So before Mike ever touched the criminal world in Albuquerque, he already lived 2 completely different lives. He was a Marine, then a Philadelphia cop, and not just any cop, a guy who understood how criminals thought because he'd been arresting them for years. The problem was his whole department was dirty, running deals on the side, looking the other way when it paid. And when his son Matt, who was also a cop, refused to go along with it, his own partners killed him, Hoffman and Fensky, 2 guys Matt trusted. After that, Mike fell apart, drank constantly, stopped taking care of himself. To anyone watching, he looked like a broken old man with nothing left. That was exactly what he wanted them to think. One night, Mike broke into Hoffman and Fensky's patrol car and hid a gun between the backseat cushions. Then he went to the bar where they were drinking and played the role perfectly, slurring his words, stumbling around, throwing his arms around their shoulders and whispering, I know it was you." They laughed it off, but it stuck with them. When the bar closed, they offered him a ride, took his gun, drove him out to some abandoned area outside the city to make it look like a suicide. Fensky suggested using Mike's own unloaded gun, the one they'd taken from him, to do it. And Mike, completely sober at this point, just looked at him and said, "Smart, that's what I would have done if I were you." Then he pulled out the gun he'd planted earlier and shot both of them. That's Mike. The man will hand you every piece of the plan and wait for you to walk right into it. Fast forward to Albuquerque, and Mike's working a parking booth to stay under the radar while quietly supporting his daughter-in-law Stacy and his granddaughter Kaylee. But bills don't pay themselves, and that slowly pulled him back in. He started doing security work for a pill dealer named Daniel Wormald Price. And that's how he crossed paths with Nacho Varga, who came to him with a serious problem. Tuco Salamanca was losing his mind, becoming more unpredictable by the day, and Nacho was convinced it was only a matter of time before Tuco turned on him. Nacho wanted Tuco dead, simple as that, and Mike actually considered it. He almost bought a rifle, but the more he thought it through, the clearer it became. Killing a Salamanca doesn't end anything. It just starts something bigger and bloodier, so he came up with something better. Mike called the police on a payphone, reported a man threatening someone with a gun at a nearby restaurant. Then he drove into the parking lot and barely tapped Tuco's car. Minor scratch. Nothing serious. But for Tuco, anything is enough. Mike went inside, ordered food, acted like nothing happened. When Tuco came in after him, Mike just ignored him, brushed him off, refused to engage. The man was rage-baiting before rage-baiting was even a concept. Tuco demanded money for the car. Mike offered insurance information instead. Tuco saw the cash in Mike's wallet earlier, so when Mike claimed he was broke, Tuco knew he was lying. The more Mike ignored him, the closer Tuco got to snapping. By the time Tuco pulled a gun and sirens were already on their way, Mike had set up the whole thing. He grabbed Tuco, disarmed him, left him with nothing but his fists, and Tuco beat Mike, repeatedly, while Mike stayed just conscious enough to keep provoking him, making sure the assault didn't stop before the cops arrived. When the police pulled up, they saw an older man getting beaten by an angry guy with an illegal firearm. Tuco got arrested on the spot. Mike walked away with a broken face and $50,000. Not bad. But Hector Salamanca wasn't happy about it. He sent his guy Arturo to Mike's doorstep offering $5,000 to claim the gun was his instead of Tuco's, basically asking Mike to take the fall. Mike said no. Hector made it very clear that saying no wasn't really an option. So Mike went home and started preparing. He taped carbon paper under his welcome mat. That's it. No cameras, no alarm system, no dramatic security setup. Just carbon paper. When he came back that night and lifted the mat, there were fresh shoe prints pressed into it, and the door lock had been tampered with. Armed men were already inside. Instead of panicking, Mike grabbed the TV remote and turned on a loud Billy Mays infomercial, Rest in Peace, at full volume. The sudden noise forced the 2 guys hiding in his house to step out to see what was happening. Mike knocked one out with the door and pistol-whipped Arturo. 2 guys, both disarmed in about 4 seconds. He could have killed them both. Instead, he just told them to try harder next time and sent them home. Because Mike doesn't waste anything, not even violence. When Hector eventually threatened Kaylee directly, that changed everything. Mike decided to hit the Salamanca operation where it would actually hurt. He staked out Hector's cash deliveries for weeks, figured out the money was hidden inside the rear tires of the trucks, identified a remote stretch of desert road with no witnesses, and built a spike strip out of a garden hose and nails in his garage. On the day of the heist, he hid behind a decaying billboard, waited for the perfect moment, triggered the spike strip, blew the tires, and watched the truck roll into a ditch. Disarmed the driver with a gun to the back of his head, tied him up with duct tape, cut open the tires with an electric saw, and drove away with the cash before anyone could connect him to it. And then, because Mike apparently does not know when to stop, he arranged to have one of Hector's other trucks busted at the border by getting cocaine to spill onto its roof. He tied a pair of shoes filled with cocaine over a power line along a road the trucks used regularly. Then, from a sniper position nearby, he waited for the truck to park directly underneath and shot the shoes. Powder went all over the roof and rear steps. Drug dogs at the checkpoint found it immediately, full search, drivers arrested, supply line disrupted. Hector had no idea what happened or how. Hector never figured out what happened. His guys just didn't come back. There's a moment in Better Call Saul that I think perfectly shows who Mike is when he's not planning anything, just reacting. Lalo Salamanca was following him through Albuquerque, keeping tabs on his movements. Mike needed to lose him, and he had maybe 30 seconds to figure out how. He turned into a gated parking garage, chewed a piece of gum, flattened it, wrapped it in the foil. When another car was exiting through the gate, Mike cut in front of it, pulled up to the ticket machine, and stuck the gum inside. Jammed it. The gate broke down. Lalo got stuck behind the car in front of him, completely blocked. Mike drove out calmly, while Lalo was still sitting there, trying to force his way through. That's not a plan. That's someone who's been thinking about the world tactically for so long that improvising looks exactly the same as planning. And then there's the tracker. After robbing Hector's truck, Mike figured someone had been following him. He took his car apart, piece by piece, at a junkyard. Chassis, interior, wiring, everything. Found nothing. Then he got to the gas cap. Hidden inside was a small battery-operated tracker. Most people would have thrown it away or smashed it. Mike studied it. He bought an identical tracker from a contact, learned exactly how it worked, and found out it sent a signal whenever the battery was getting low. So he hooked the original tracker to a handheld radio to drain the battery fast, making it look like it was about to die. Then he installed his own tracker in the gas cap and waited. Early the next morning, someone came to replace the supposedly dying tracker, removed Mike's device from the car, replaced it with a fresh one, drove off not knowing that the thing he just pocketed was now sending a signal straight to Mike's receiver. Mike followed that signal directly to Los Polos Hermanos and his first meeting with Gus Fring. He turned a surveillance device into a trail that led him exactly where he needed to go. I could keep going, honestly. The warehouse with the Mylar balloons shorting out the power lines so he could take out 4 cartel hitmen one by one in complete darkness, communicating with Chow through hand signals in the dark to locate the last gunman through a wall, the carbon paper, the toy on the doorknob that distracted Chris Mara just long enough for Mike to slip in through the back. Every single one of those moments shows the same thing, a guy who never panics.